This is absolutely crazy. The Knicks are willing to give up everything to acquire Devin Booker and pair him alongside Jalen Brunson. And we have to break this down because Devin Booker has been the nucleus for this Suns team. And he leaving could be possible big changes for this core. We're going to be breaking down all of this on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz alongside my co-host C.J. Pierre. But before we dive in on all this Phoenix Suns news, around 96% of our viewers are not subscribed. So if you guys want to make sure you stay up to date all throughout the offseason with this Suns team going through these massive changes, hit that subscribe button as we push for 1,000 subscribers. But CJ, let's dive into the topic at hand today. And I know that you brought up a video yesterday kind of breaking down this. We're diving a little bit more into that. So if you guys missed that, check out that video where CJ broke it down. But the first topic at hand is Devin Booker to New York increasing. And CJ, I kind of want to give your kind of first takes, first thoughts on this as we dive in, because we want to look at this Dunk Central tweet. The Knicks are reportedly willing to offer almost anything to pair Devin Booker with Jalen Brunson. Him and Jalen Brunson would have an electrifying, high-scoring backcourt for one of the NBA's most pleasant surprises. And according to a source, New York would be willing to pay almost anything to make that pairing happen. So do you think that this is a smart move for the Phoenix Suns?
Is it a smart move for the Phoenix Suns? I don't think so. I don't, unless you're trying to completely blow it up. Devin Booker is your most valuable asset. Okay. He's your youngest star player. He's just entering in his new big contract. He's your franchise player. He's a fan favorite here in Phoenix. I don't think it would be a good move if you're actually still trying to continue being a contending team. If trading Roy Booker is basically like punting on what you're trying to do as a championship contender. So I think that trading Booker would be a mistake. I think that if you're the New York Knicks, that's probably a great idea. Devin Booker would be a great addition to their team and just have another dynamic scorer to help Jalen Brunson. I think if the Suns really want to go into true rebuild mode, blow it all up, sure. But if they're still trying to win a championship, this is not something I would entertain.
I agree with you, CJ. Like I mentioned, I think he's the nucleus, the guy that's been built this team around. He had CP come in, Aiton's come in, KD's come in, Beal's come in. Devin Booker has been stuck with this franchise throughout after being drafted here, and I don't think that you give up on your star player. But like you mentioned, the Knicks, they're in this hunt for Devin Booker. Last season, they were in the hunt for Donovan Mitchell. And before we recorded this video, we're kind of breaking that down, talking about how the Knicks need that second scorer, that other star player. And as we've seen throughout the playoffs, unfortunately, Julius Randle has gone down. But Jalen Brunson, with his role players, is taking that Knicks team, leading them behind his back. But as we dive in, kind of look a little bit more at this, let's look at the Phoenix Suns contracts, because if they were able to do a trade moving off Devin Booker, they would be cutting a lot of their salary, moving off around 46% or 49,000, for Devin Booker's contract after he did sign that extension in the offseason last year. So when you look at that, with the Suns being a second apron team, which we kind of talked about, what kind of trade are you looking for Devin Booker if it's possibly with the New York Knicks?
Well, if you're actually going to entertain a trade for the New York Knicks, you want to get the most bang for your buck, right? So that means you want to get assets. You want to get an asset that's going to provide you value years down the road, basically to kind of replace the fact that you're trading your youngest star player. So when you're looking at what the Knicks have to offer, you have to look at, a piece, like a Miles McBride. He's a young ascending point guard that is really kind of capturing the hearts of people in the NBA. He's really establishing himself as, a solid rotational piece. And I think that is someone that you could do. Now, Miles McBride is, still on his rookie deal, so he's not making the kind of money Devin Booker's making, right? So you have to combine that, with other pieces. That's when you start looking, hey, do the Knicks want to move off from Julius Randle, who is making a lot of money? Now, he's been injury prone, as we've seen, and has kind of come up small in the postseason in the past, but he's someone that you'd want to throw in. Then you start looking at, all right, is there maybe another solid rotational player that the Knicks might want to part with? That's when you look at someone like a Josh Hart, which I don't think that the Knicks would want to get rid of someone like him, but adding him, that would allow the salaries to match up, right? Then you start looking at draft capital. How many first round picks can you get from the Knicks? How many second round picks can you get? Are there pick swaps involved? Now, the Suns, they don't have that really pick swap availability because they traded all their picks away when they got KD and they got Beal, right? So they don't really have a lot of leverage when it comes to that, but they do have the opportunity to at the very least put something on the table if that's what they want to do. Now, personally, I think this, like I said, I think this would be a blow it up move. Like if you're gonna just try and, go ahead and just say, all right, we're done. Our championship window's closed. And we got to just start making some moves here just so we can, figure out our salary cap, get back into a place where we can start building again, then that's what you would do. And if you were going to do that, you want to start with picking up guys who are young and ascending players and also some expiring contracts that the Knicks might have.
For sure. And like you said, if this team isn't looking to blow it up, Devin Booker isn't the guy to look to move. But if they are looking to blow it up with this Western Conference getting younger, getting a little bit more talented, obviously being star stacked, it could be the right decision. Now, if we want to look at the Knicks payroll, like you mentioned, Julius Randle would be one of the guys that I would think they would have to salary match, obviously not being involved in this playoffs, coming around $30 million. So he'd be, the closest contract to match to around Devin Booker. But then you say it's around like $15 to $20 million kind of extra there for the salary match for that trade. So you were talking about a guy in Miles McBride who's been a young hooper. I think he'd be a great asset. We also talked about possibly getting a backup center in one of the last duos we did. So maybe even a guy like Mitch Robinson, where Isaiah Hartenstein has really taken over for that starting role in that center position with his injuries this year. He could be a guy who could be off the table. And I wouldn't mind if the Suns obviously went out and got a guy like Randall, Robinson, possibly even McBride with, like you mentioned, a couple picks. Because as we look at the draft capital from the New York Knicks, we can see they have an abundance of first round and second round capital. You can't even read the amount of years that their draft picks are because there's so many. But if you look at the Suns, you can see a 2024 second round pick and a 2028 second round pick. So if this team is looking to get better for the future, add some assets, add some things to help them out, this trade I think would actually be pretty solid. Julius Randle, still a playoff contender, can help down low in that front court. You're adding obviously Mitchell Robinson, so you're adding some front court depth. And then you still have to look for that point guard, like obviously we mentioned, but I still think that it could get the job done. So the final point that I'm going to be bringing up, CJ, for this video is it worth it? Do you think that if the Phoenix Suns were possibly to do a trade with Julius Randle, with Mitch Robinson, with Deuce McBride, with let's say at least 2 first-round picks, they can be protected, but let's say that they're protected 2 first-round picks with those 3 players. Do you think that this helps the Suns, and do you think it's worth it if they're still trying to beat a playoff contender, or if they're trying to blow it up? Or do you think that they should just stick with Bradley Beal or stick with Devin Booker and just try to find some other pieces around the edges?
Um, so it really all depends on, what Matt Ishbia, what James Jones are projecting for the future, right? What's the coaching staff going to look like? There's all the rumors about what's happening with Frank Vogel and the fact that he may be a one and done coach.
Yep.
And then they may want to bring in someone new. So that I feel like that's kind of where it all starts. It starts with the front office and kind of what they are envisioning for the future of this team. And right now there isn't much of a future when you have only the limited amount of draft capital that the Suns currently have. I think that there is a world where you can trade someone like Devin Booker, and if you're able to get the right pieces and with the right amount of draft capital back, that you can still build a contender and compete. Now, bringing in someone like Julius Randle, like for example, if you bring him in, and then along with someone like a Mitchell Robinson, then that completely changes what the Suns lineup will look like. And if you add a Miles McBride, imagine a lineup that you have where you have Miles McBride, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant at the 3, Julius Randle's at the 4, and then you have someone like Mitchell Robinson, at the 3. You bring in some draft capital, and you have some young draft picks coming off your bench. That doesn't seem like a bad roster. That doesn't seem like a bad situation to go into in a deep Western Conference. You still have a veteran like KD to lead in the charge. You'll have a capable scorer in Julius Randle, a young up-and-coming point guard, and you'll still have Bradley Beal, or whatever version of him he will be, but probably in a role better suited for him since he wouldn't be trying to be a facilitator on the court. So I think there is a world where you can envision it, but you got to remember, there's all these second apron rules, the salary cap, and, all that situation. And then teams may be looking at the Suns like, hey, you guys are trading Devin Booker. You guys must be desperate. Does that put them in a situation where they have the leverage to get all those draft picks for one player, and all that's a lot. Would be a haul. I think Devin Booker is worth that kind of haul. but I really feel like it might be tough sledding. I really think that if the Suns are looking to acquire some assets, some capital, I think the thing they'll have to do is try and figure out a way to trade Bradley Beal or Kevin Durant. I think that's kind of really the direction that they want to go for if they still want to be a contender. I think that with Bradley Beal's no trade clause, that kind of complicates things. You know, he's not going to want to be traded to a team that's rebuilding. If he is looking at it and he sees a situation that he doesn't want to be a part of, he can just say, nope, I'm not letting you guys trade me there. But I feel like that would be the best direction to go. I don't think you're going to get the return on investment for Kevin Durant as some might think. They're definitely not going to get the same kind of package that they traded for him for. It's probably going to be pennies on the dollar. But on the same line, if they do trade Kevin Durant to a team with some cap space, that'll free up them. They wouldn't be a second apron team anymore. It would give them more flexibility in terms of what they're able to do in free agency, what kind of mid-level exceptions they're able to hand out. So I think that, and then that would then allow them to build a core around Beal and Booker as opposed to, a Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, where you're only relying on whatever capital you're able to get back in a Booker trade. Um, at the end of the day, I think it's best if they just try and work within the margins that they have. I think they should keep the big three together. I think they should try and find a point guard, try and find a big man or a backup big. And honestly, I think running it back is their best option. I think, making some tweaks here or there, I don't think they're that far off. I mean, they were nearly a 50-win team in the regular season, which is like, would be a great season in most cases, but the West was so loaded, it just kind of, got overshadowed by what other teams were doing. So I think if the Suns are able to continue to push forward with what they have, I think that would be the best option. A couple tweaks here or there, and I think they can be in for a successful season down the road. But we'll have to see if that's what the front office wants.
You brought up some great points there, CJ, and I'm glad we're in agreement here that keeping Devin Booker is the main staple. Like, I'm a huge Devin Booker fan, one of my favorite players in the NBA. I don't want to see him traded to another team. I want him growing with this Suns team. I want him bringing a championship for their team, and I feel like the fans also feel the same way. Like you said, I feel like working around the edges is the best move, trying to get a point guard, trying to get a veteran center, trying to see what you can do, because with the second apron, it limits them so much with making these trades with Devin Booker, with KD, even with Bradley Beal, with that no trade clause and being a second apron team. That's going to be so hard to find a team that he wants to go to that can also accept his contract and accept his role. It would just be very, very difficult. So like I think keeping the big three is the best move. But as you guys know, there'll be a bunch of rumors, bunch of drama, bunch of all of this stuff to break down throughout the entire offseason. So if you guys enjoyed the video, if you guys are still at this point, make sure to hit the subscribe button for your boy Bruce and CJ over here on Suns Digest, as we are trying to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark and push videos out daily for you guys on the Phoenix Suns. Without further ado, though, we're going to sign off here on this video. Could Devin Booker be going to the Knicks? We personally don't think so, but there's a high possibility if the Knicks do want him and the Suns do want to blow it up. From Bruce Veliz and CJ Pierre, we're going to be signing off, but have a great rest of your day and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, everybody.